Hey everyone, this is part 2 of the Real Estate Data Solutions for 2021, where we cover what data sources are available to use if you're a researcher, an investor, an agent, and more. As we know, real estate data is so rich and interesting. However, it is siloed between many different areas. And that's why it's important to be able to understand the landscape of data so that you can make empowered decisions. In part 1, we got to touch upon several different segments like market data, where we talked about the difference of structured and unstructured data, why the benefits to either or. And then we also talked about economic trends, how important it is to understand micro, macro trends that can impact the region that you are investing in or researching, and what tools to look for in order to get that data. Then we also described lead building and what current sources are available, both structured and unstructured. We got to go through Apify, which is a really neat tool that allows you to do web scraping as well. And for our next part, we're going to be touching what data is currently available for investment analysis. This is getting things like actual property data and detail, such as a description, bedrooms, bathrooms, estimates for what the price should sell for a property, as well as for rent. Then we're going to move on to data monetization, which is really exciting for me because it allows us to pull different data sources and potentially make some profit off of it. And then we're going to cover takeaways just to wrap everything up and get you ready for your next steps in your data journey with real estate. As a background, before we dive in, this presentation was delivered to Florida Atlantic University for an MBA course. For security reasons, we were not allowed to share the actual recording that was done there, which is why I'm going to be resharing this information so that you guys could also get this really critical insight. So now we're talking about investment analysis. So say if you're trying to evaluate a property, you want to know what is the cash flow potential for properties within a given city or zip code. Well, this is the part that's going to allow us to do so. So let's say we have a hypothesis, a theory that we want to run with, and we want data to help us prove it out. So our theory here is if we can automatically evaluate properties as they become listed on the MLS, so publicly listed on the multiple listing services like Zillow, Redfin, then we can save time in our research. So the idea is we want to basically have like an Excel sheet or some sort of system where we have property information and we have our own metrics that we care about, like cash flow, or to quickly assess, okay, these properties are definitely not on my list to continue researching, these potentially are. And we're going to use property detail APIs to evaluate properties in a given market. Some resources I'm going to touch upon are Bridge Interactive, Atom, CoreLogic, and APIs like Rapid API. So there's going to be 2 parts that I cover here on how to get property detail information. So one is coming from vendor sources and the other is coming from web scraping techniques. And I'll tell you what the benefits are for either or and what to use based on your project. So right now we're on Atom's homepage, and Atom is a data aggregator. So they basically get a lot of information from different sources in order to evaluate property data. And if we go down, we can get a little bit more information on that. They have a really cool table of data elements, and it shows they get information on properties such as HOA fees, property characteristics, exterior features, building permits. Then they go even further of getting information like occupancy, mortgage transactions, foreclosure information, which I actually have a video on how to do that yourself using web scraping based off of your region. They have more information like valuation, where you can get information on comparable sales, home equity, etc. So they really have everything all in one. So you're probably thinking, great, I'm just going to go use Atom and I'm done. I could start building my own models or whatever other metrics to start evaluating properties. So the thing here is that Atom does come at a cost. It is a higher end service. So I'm not actually sure exactly how much it costs, but I know it's probably in the thousands. Therefore, if you're looking to do ad hoc research, so this is research that's, you're not going to be going back to a month later, or you're trying to build up a prototype, maybe you want to build some sort of real estate application, Well, I believe that you probably shouldn't start with this first. Use other data sources that are cheaper and easily available, test your idea, and then come back to something like this, like Atom, in order to ingest this type of data. Another source besides Atom is Bridge Interactive. So Zillow used to have their data for free, which was really, really cool through an API. However, I guess they realized, probably be better on their part to not have to manage that, and then also being able to have stuff at a cost. So Bridge Interactive actually has MLS data. It says here, we're building software to create better listings and share real estate data more easily. Now I know they also come at a cost, which again is likely pretty high. However, remember your use case. Is this something that's research-based or you're just starting up? If yes, then try to use data sources that I'm going to cover next that are cheaper. But if you use something that's a little bit more solidified in place, then come back to Bridge Interactive or Atom. So now, what are these cheap data sources that I'm talking about that helps us do similar things in getting property detailed information? Well, before I dive into how to get Zillow data, which if I don't already have it by now, I will have a video coming out on how to do this with Python. So right now I'm on Rapid API's homepage. Think of Rapid API as like a big marketplace where a developer can come and sell their good, which in this case is their code that they've written up in order to acquire data from a website or some other source. So in this case, we have API Maker. This is the developer who's created this, whether they're a company or a small person, I have no idea. But what they do is extract data from Zillow and allow you to get that data in a really easy, structured way. So the way we would be able to go about this is they have endpoints. This is basically different ways to tap data, one of them being extended search. So if we go down to the middle part, we could see that if we put in a location like Santa Monica, we can have more filters like what type of property we want to extract. Do we want to filter by number of bedrooms, the price low to high, bathrooms, and more? You can kind of get really, really niched in here as to what your criteria is, and you should if you're really focused in on a market. What's really neat is that once we input our parameters and we want to actually test the endpoint, then we're going to get a response back. So what this is doing is that it's taking our search criteria, it's going into Zillow, it says in real time, and it's extracting the information for us. So the response here that we would get is information on a property where we would get the property address, latitude, longitude, what the price is. Looks like we're going to get information on days on Zillow and more. So we are getting that property detail information without having to pay as much. So if we go to pricing, we could see here that we could do this pull, the same search, 20 times for no cost. Then if we want to maybe do this for a wider range, we can do this for pulling 9,000 requests for $30, and we could cancel it right afterwards. So as you see, it's not that much entry cost in comparison to paying thousands for maybe a contract upfront with Atom or Bridge Interactive. Now, it's really great that we're able to get property detail, but what if we want to get more information on what a property should be selling for? So sale estimates, maybe we're doing a fix and flip and we want to understand what the price could sell for, or the property could sell for at the end. And we want to maybe look at the strategy of renting it out. So what are the rent estimates? Well, RealtyMole is a dedicated line just for being able to get estimates on a sale price and rent estimate. So as we see here, it says by RealtyMole. This is the creator of the API. So it's actually the website themselves. So it's not just a random developer. And I'm assuming they get this some sort of way from the MLS, but they basically aggregate information and you can see estimates. So for example, say if I'm searching for a specific property address, which I believe you had to put down here, you could select how many comparables you want to look at. So let's say 5, and then you can put more criteria, like it has to be a certain amount of bedrooms, it has to be a certain amount of bathrooms, and we're pulling similar properties. Those are comparables. And what we're going to get are 5 properties that are really similar to the 5500 Grand Lake Drive. And we're going to get a rent estimate, low estimate, high estimate, and that property detail for those estimates. So it's really, really neat. I have a video already, so check it out if you want to be able to extract this. Now you might be saying, Ariel, this is well and good, but I'm not a developer. I am following what you're saying, but I'm maybe not comfortable with my skill set in order to pull this data. Lucky for you, there's plenty of really neat tools available like Zapier that actually allow you to do this connection of extracting data from APIs without needing to code. So I actually have a course. It's called List Building Automation. And what we do is we go into Zillow first and we put our market criteria. So for my example, in the Brandon region in Tampa, I'm looking at specific type of properties. So a property with 3 bedrooms, so 4 bedrooms, certain square footage and price range. Once we have that nailed down in Zillow, we get alerts that are sent to our email. And through here, once an alert comes into our email, we're going to automatically have it parsed in the background to add information so that we don't have to touch anything at all. So what we build out in the course is when we go to the email, we use Zapier to extract the information on the price of the new for sale property, the address, information like the bedrooms and bathrooms and square footage. That's going to be done automatically. We just have to set it up once. Then afterwards, we pull in data like rent estimates, property estimates, and ultimately we're able to create, with just a couple lines of code at the end, a really neat spreadsheet or an actual tool where we can evaluate all the properties in one spot. So this is a little bit outdated since I created the course a couple of months ago. However, we could see the number of listings that came through our email, days on market, average list price, which obviously this is going to be more because the listings are stale. And then what's really neat is that we could see our yield range. So this is the cash on cash return range for the properties. And even though I believe you should really know your market and dive deeper into the properties afterwards, this can at least give us a gauge, like some properties that we should continue looking into and some that we shouldn't, based on what we want for our cash on cash return. So this is just to demonstrate the power of being able to use different data sources and use a tool like Zapier where you don't have to code. If you'd like to take the course, you could use the promo code YT subscriber 2021, YouTube subscriber, and you'll get $100 off. That'll be linked in the show notes as well. Now, a lot of things that I focused on are single family home based or for smaller properties. However, if you want to get information, say on apartments.com for a property with multiple units, you can do that as well using Appify. This is going to give you information based on your input. So this should still be a search, just a regular search. And in your README, you're going to see that you get some really neat data, including the address. You get information on what's the range of bedrooms for the units. I believe you also get how many units there are, some transit information close by, a lot of really rich data. But what you could see is based on your use case, you decide, do I want to actually use an all-in-one platform like Atom because I'm building out a huge product, or if I'm doing research or something that's a proof of concept, I could come into these tools to use these web scraping and API availabilities. Great, now we're at my favorite part of this, which is how do we actually use data where we can monetize it and profit off of it? So to get started, data aggregation is a way to combine multiple data sources and provide a single score or source that makes it easy for others to digest. So some common aggregators that you've probably seen on a lot of these apps that have MLS data are walkability, transit, and green scores or eco scores. So to get more acquainted on what a data aggregator score is and how to find them, let's walk through walkability. So right now I'm on Zillow, I'm in the Tampa area, and there's a property for sale. Now it's really neat if we go down on Zillow, and this is on a lot of the data sources as well, is we can get information on how walkable the neighborhood is. So it's a scale from, I believe, 0 to 100. and their definition is walk score measures how walkable an address is based on distance to nearby amenities. You could get more detail here as to how they actually score it, but essentially if you can walk to get milk, there's maybe bars and restaurants and eye doctor close by. These are things that are going to increase a walkability score. Whereas the area that I grew up in when I was younger, to get milk was a 5-minute drive. So the walkability score was very, very low. To get this information, you could do it without having to come into Zillow. You could use an API, of course. So there's on Rapid API a source called Walk Score. And it basically gets the same thing. So you're able to input an address or latitude and longitude, and you get back how walkable is the area 0 to 100. You could also get transit score and bike score. Now what's really neat here is that this is produced by someone called API Guy. And if we go to the website that they provide, that has a little bit more information, we could see that this walk score, transit score, and bike score are free. However, if we want to get more information like public transit data, which is likely driving that data source or more, they charge a premium and enterprise solutions. So for example, say if it's a large corporation that is looking at detail for properties for 1,000 a day maybe, well, they're going to need a larger solution and they may be paying $100 a month for this. Now, if this person that has the walk score has at least 100 customers, I mean, they're raking in $10,000 a month. And it's just as simple as just pulling different data sources, putting a score on it, and making it available for others. So you could see how with data, just using it from multiple data sources, you can actually have a single source that you could charge money for and make a really good amount of profit with a lot of upfront work, but not that much work afterwards, which is what I call passive income. So let's actually walk through an example of how we would create this ourselves. So these days, a lot of people are health conscious. We see organic stuff everywhere and more. So what if we want to actually build our own health conscious score that could be put against all properties so that when someone's looking to purchase a property, they could see that and get more of an inclination if they want to stick with it or not, similar to walkability. Well, what makes something an area health conscious? Well, maybe they have a lot of farm to table restaurants, meaning that they're getting a lot of the ingredients from local farms. Also, maybe they have a lot of fitness boutiques. So it's people in the area, a lot of them are health conscious and wanting to stay fit and work out. Also, we could look into eco-friendly laws. Maybe we pull that from the county sources or certain laws that are changing in comparison to others within the region. I mean, imagine we just pull these three in. We do it for, say, all of Florida. Then we do a score relative to that. We could then sell this off and be similar to that API guy where we put it up publicly available, have a free model, and then we have a premium model. So that right there is just a simplistic view as to how you can actually aggregate data and monetize it, which if you have any ideas, feel free to share them with me because this is a really heavy interest of mine today. So as an overview from segment 1 and 2, we covered a lot here, but now you have a real big leg up as to what data sources are available for real estate. And whether you are the developer or not, you can actually go onto a site like Fiverr and maybe pay someone to do some of this work for you, but you have a really good understanding now of what you're looking for and what to ask for. What we want to get out of this was that data empowers decision making. It's really important to not go through gut feelings and use data in order to be your sense of truth. As well, the real estate data space is continuously growing. These sources that I showed you may not be relevant in 2-3 years from now. However, by what we did today, you're able to quickly just gauge how to find these data sources. So in the future, even if they do change, you'll know the methodology of extracting it. As well, web scraping and APIs provide alternative ways of getting data. So if we want to be creative and pull things off of Craigslist or Facebook rather than just the MLS, we could do that with some really neat tools like Appify, or we could use something like Fiverr to hire someone for cheap in order to get that for us. As well, combining data together. It doesn't have to be only a developer thing. You could do it with no code using tools like Zapier, which you could use in my course. As well, aggregating data together is a really, really neat space that you can actually make money off of because you're providing an easier way to digest multiple sources so that someone can make a quick decision and evaluate a property or some other material thing. So overall, thank you so much for watching part 1 and 2 of this. Please leave your comments below on maybe some additional sources that you have found to be really useful, as well for any tips and tricks on getting alternative data sources, since I really see that space growing within real estate. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Thanks.